welcome. The biggest talking point in Nigeria at the moment is a planned nationwide protest over the pervasive economic hardship as Nigerians battle one of the country's worst inflation and economic crisis. Now, the protest tagged hashtag End Bad Governance is already going viral on social media and is billed to commence on August the 1st. And of course, there has been massive reactions on the planned protest, both from government and the citizens. But in all of this, there's even no solid confirmation yet that a protest has actually been planned. No one has come forward to identify themselves as the organizers. In fact, at this very moment, you cannot join, or you actually cannot identify anyone at all as being the organizer of the project. And it actually leaves me wondering sometimes about the whole hysteria that this issue has generated. But then we'll wait and see. Anyway, the government has not been taking the issue now lying low at all. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has had several meetings over the issue, appealing to youths to shelve the protest and allow the government to address the economic challenges confronting the country. The Nigerian military has also waded into the matter, saying it has detected plans by some unscrupulous elements to hijack the protest and perpetrate violence, and warning sternly that it would not allow that to happen. Other stakeholders, including some northern groups, have opposed the planned protest, calling rather for proper engagement with the federal government. But then the question again is, if we do not know the organizers of the protest, then how can that engagement with the government actually take place? Joining me now to discuss all of this is Habu Hamisu, who is a public affairs analyst. He joins us from Abuja. Hamisu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. First off, how crucial is it to actually identify the organizers of this protest so that some kind of engagement can take place? Because you hear people saying that the government needs to engage with the people, but the problem is, how can that engagement take place if, as we speak, nobody has actually come forward to say, look, they are the ones organizing the protest, that they are responsible for it?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. DEJI, for this very particular important question. My sympathy goes to the president, who is the father of protests in Nigeria, who has led protests all his life. He has led protests all his life. Is known to be the staunch advocate of democratic freedom. And one of the important ingredients of democratic freedom is the right of dissent, to protest, to show your protest. He did that to the military, and he did that to even President Olusegun Obasanjo when he created additional local governments in Lagos State, and the president refused to recognize those local governments, and then went ahead to withhold the allocation to all the local governments in Lagos State. So it's a fearless person, he's a courageous person, but it's in an environment that security has taken precedent over what he may believe in. But I want to warn Mr. President, and this is my advice to him: he shouldn't allow the security to securitize the entire situation to the extent that he will begin to lose the ideas that made him who he is. If there would be a protest in Nigeria, I encourage Mr. President to encourage the youth to protest, to receive the youth, make sure that there is educated security arrangement to protect public buildings and safety, and guarantee the safety of the people. Because that is what he stood for. That is what we know him for. Now security will come with uncovering unscrupulous elements and the rest. They are the cause of the problem as we speak. And that is why nobody is coming up to say, I am the leader of the protest. Those people that post one or two things in support of the protest will be taken. The case of Abu Salma is glaring. The young man posted something in support of the protest, though there were content that they said were pushing people to violence, and because of that, he was arrested and kept away. And then he came back. He's now saying that he doesn't even know anything about the protest. So if people that posted something in support of the protest are being arrested or harassed or threatened or intimidated, then Mr. Deji, tell me, who do you want to discuss with? Who will come forward to say that I'm the leader of the protest when his colleagues are being picked?
Can we say the reason why we're seeing some of these reactions, especially from the government and the security agencies as well, is because of what we experienced during the NSAS protest, when it became very violent and you know, one of the most violent protests we've seen in recent times, and that the security agencies are doing everything they can to ensure that we do not have a repeat of that situation.
Of course, you see, DEJI, this is democracy, and this is one of the fallouts of democracy that we'll be talking about. You know, when you say democracy and you are practicing liberal democracy, it means individuals are at liberty to organize, to do whatever they want to do at any time.
But
and the question we'll be asking is, it including
not to do violence, not violence. They certainly would not have the right to embark on violence.
Yes, I'm coming to that. I'm laying a context. I'm laying a context. And that is why nations that are desirous of repositioning their country, ensuring welfare, democratic freedom, are against the absolute freedom that democracy has conferred on individuals, that you can organize to do anything. And that is the point. And now the people are beginning to see the government as authoritarian and autocratic because people that are muting the idea of protests are being cracked down on. But in countries that are developing, that have developed, one of the things that has happened in those countries was the fact that the rulers were able to define limits that some persons, individuals, and groups cannot cross. You remember I'm not advocating that, but you remember the Tiananmen Square incident in China, when some young graduate from America, British, and Western universities went back to China, and they said they have the right to protest. And the leader then, I think Deng Xiaoping, said there is no room for protest in China. Whatever you want to say, go back to the party, let us discuss, and we incorporate it in our programs. And the youth decided to embark on that protest, and they went to Tiananmen Square. I think only a few of them returned to tell their stories. In Rwanda, the governor, the president there is in charge, and it defines the way things are supposed to be. But in Nigeria, we said we're practicing liberal democracy. And in liberal democracy, everybody has the right to do anything to organize, to protest. And in fact, one of the things we're taught is that one of the freedom we enjoy in liberal democracy is the right to protest, the right to dissent, and so on and so forth. And here we are with a problem. And we've seen what happened with NSAS. And some people are saying that is not the way to go. And others are insisting that it is their right. So I like this conversation because it is opening up our democracy for discussion, to see what is good in democracy and what is not good in liberal democracy. What can we learn from our experiences in the past? But if protest will hold and adequate security measure will be put in place, in America today, they are cracking down on protesters. And it didn't stop people from coming to protest. But what they do was to ensure that there are adequate security measures, to ensure that people are protected, public institutions, safety, and so concern are taken into consideration. So for me, this is the way to go if at all we want to practice liberal democracy as we know it.
But of course, certainly you are not in any way saying that, look, that people should resort to violent protest, like we saw during the NSAS protest.
No, of course, no. I am not in support of violence in any form. But what I'm saying is this: liberal democracy guarantees people the right to do anything, including the violence. And I hate that. So I am saying that our democracy should be scrutinized to ensure that we have a limit. So you can't hide under democracy to become irresponsible. I don't see any connection between protesting to show your disaffection against a popular government, against a government that is not popular, against policies, against whatever, and then you go out to loot. Let me recount something that makes me to hate protest as an individual. I have the misfortune or the fortune to lead student group at a very tender age in my life. And one of the things they used to define the success of every government in power in student government was protest. And there was an issue. A student died, and we came to the conclusion that there was a poor handling of that student. And what do we need to do? That we need to protest. I was against it initially, but I was blackmailed. And then we went on to protest. The next day, it was even embarrassing that some of my colleagues that opted for protest, that went for protest, went to steal beer, went to steal codeine from Nigerians that are aching out and living from the meager resources that they have. A lot of them came to submit to the student government bills of the amount of things that were looted in their shops. So the question I was asking myself then, and even now, is what is the connection between protest to show anger over poor handling of a colleague that died and the innocent shop owners that were up and about their business, whose shops were attacked and looted? The same thing happened with the NSAS. So it may be that the organizers meant well, but the people that will hijack it will hijack it for the purpose that are not intended. So we have to, as a nation, talk to ourselves what we want. Is it protest with violence or protest without violence? Of course, everybody will opt for protest without violence.
Now, let me ask you this. Are there other ways now? Are there no other ways? Because there's this impression that has been created, and that impression appears to have stuck with us, that in this country and in most parts of Africa, that there's no other way to address grievances. There's no other way to address issues than to embark on protest. And when you do an analysis of some of these protests, they end up changing nothing at all. Of course, you would have one or two things that will be thrown at the protesters and they think they've achieved their aim, but at the end of the day, it goes back to square one. So are there no other effective way of dealing with issues other than this protest?
You see, DG, let us be honest with ourselves. What has led to this issue of protest is bad governance and poor redressal mechanisms. We have a public complaint commission that people don't even know exists. We don't even know what it does. Nobody wants to go there. You go, you submit applications, nobody seems to be doing anything. If the National Assembly is up and doing, just the way the Speaker is doing now in the feud that has ensued between Dangote and the NNPCPL, I bet you there will be total commitment to engaging the National Assembly. You see, one of the things that democracy furnished the people is opportunity to peacefully resolve their differences. And this is why there is the legislative arm of government, the judiciary is there, the executive is there. And then on top of all of this, we have other agencies of government that are supposed to listen to people's complaints and cries and everything. For instance, the Consumer Protection Agency that we have today. This is one of the agencies that are taking up complaint by citizens and they are acting on it and people are getting succor from that. Imagine something like Brekete Family, for instance, is a very peaceful conflict resolution mechanism that is not elaborate, that is not noisy, and you go there through play, jokes, and so on and so forth. Issues are resolved amicably. I wish our National Assembly would be like Brekete Family, where every Nigerian can walk into the State House of Assembly of their state to say, okay, things are not working in this state, we want it this way. To the National Assembly to draw attention to issues. But when you go to these places, my brother, what you find is embarrassing. You can't even mention the local council at the local government. They are not working. So now, what I'm saying in essence is something that is known and is proven to be a stated fact. If you make peaceful changes impossible, you will make a violent change inevitable, because the man that has lost everything has nothing to lose again and is willing to pull down everything with him or with her. So the issue is, let us make our institutions functional again. Let me be able to walk into the police station, I will get justice. Let me walk into the judiciary, I will get justice. Let me walk into the National Assembly, I will be listened to. I can send a letter to my president, and my president will reply me. Hey, then if we open up these democratic spaces, then I bet you, DG, there will be no protest. Nobody will call for protests in this country.
Now, you look at the prevailing economic situation in the country today, of course, no doubt at all. It's a difficult one, which, of course, is precipitating this planned protest. But
yes,
you look at Nigerians' reaction to issues that affect them on a day-to-day basis. Their reaction to issues is usually, look, say, everyone looks to the center, for instance. When some of these issues can actually be dealt locally, whether it's at the local government level and at the state level and all of that. Don't you think it's time probably we began to that Nigerians actually began to re-strategize and learn to channel their grievances and protest appropriately so that they're able to get better answers, and that this problem, the problems or whatever their grievances are, get better addressed? Because at the end of the day, if there's no proper channelization of your grievances, what you end up getting is tokenism. And at the end of the day, it's like you're back to square one.
Yes, I quite agree with you partly. And that was why I mentioned state houses of assembly, and I mentioned local government councils that are not functioning. Apart from the fact that they are not functioning, they are not even operating the way they ought to operate so that Nigerians can derive benefit from engaging with them. You see, yes, it is right to engage at the local level. It is right to engage at the state level. But the federal government is the overarching entity that is responsible for the policy directions that govern every relationship in this country. So, assuming I'm receiving subsidy to go to farm, and all of a sudden, Mr. President removed the subsidy without adequate warning, without giving me adequate time to plan, and then today, what I do transport to the market, spending 2,000, I'm now spending 10,000 to take those things to the market, and I'm not guaranteed that market. In a way, what I'm able to earn with a pronouncement of Mr. President has been wiped off completely. So if people are focusing on the federal government, they have every right to focus on the federal government because it's the overarching entity that is responsible for fiscal, monetary, economic, and all the policies that are affecting this country. In terms of infrastructure provisioning, so the issue is simple. Yes, people are not engaging with the state as it were, or as it's supposed to be. They are not engaging with local government. But again, the overarching policy that is driving the economic condition and the welfare of the people is by the federal government of Nigeria. And this is why people often focus on the federal government than the constituted part. You remember the issue of security? The present governor of Zamfara State was crying that he's helpless because he's not in charge of security. He cannot ask the army to deploy. He cannot have the police to deploy. So if people are talking about insecurity in Zamfara State and they're pointing fingers at the federal government, they are right. If people are talking about insecurity in Katsina State and they're pointing accusing fingers on to the federal government, they are right. Because it is the federal government that is in charge of security of this nation. And this is why people often go back to federal government instead of going back to their state government. Because by the time they go back to their state government will point them to federal government. Now, we have to understand something, that the responsibilities are shared responsibility. In as much as federal government of Nigeria is in charge of security, state government do budget money, humongous monies in the name of security. In fact, their security votes are never open to public scrutiny. They don't even audit it. So anybody that wants to do anything with public funds will just cite insecurity, and they'll push money to insecurity, and they take it and fritter it away without any traces. And nobody was going to scrutinize them. So it's a shared responsibility. And the federal government must come clean and enlighten the people that it's a shared responsibility.
All right, Abdurrahman Abu Amisu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. We'll take a short break and we'll come back to continue this conversation. Stay with us. Don't go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.